So here we are talking about random nonsense, trying to get the thing.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff. And I am joined today by ReMi. ReMi is a lender, right?
I am.
Is that your appropriate title? There's so many titles.
I would say I'm not the lender. I'm the loan officer.
The loan officer. What's the difference?
The lender's the one who actually gives their money.
Okay.
I'm not giving my money.
Not giving your money?
No, I'm giving my employer's money.
Yeah, nice. So who do you work for?
Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group.
Atlantic Bay. Located at?
Our office is here in Richmond. Atlantic Bay is based out of Virginia Beach.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're local.
Nice.
I like it.
So I decided, since this is 2024 and this is our first podcast of 2024, because I was just tired in December, so we didn't do a whole lot.
That's fair.
And then Courtney took her 97th vacation of the year.
Woohoo!
So I figured there's been a lot of stuff that's been changing. We shifted, and they say shifted. I say it was just a continuous shift, like it never stopped. When the rates went from like 2.5% to 8% overnight, this past year was kind of, we peaked at, I don't know what it was, close to 8.
I mean, there were definitely loans that sold with interest rates higher than 8s, just to pay, investors or something like that. Not
and that
necessarily.
Was, October-ish?
Probably.
Yeah. And then the Fed has done what they do. I guess they said they're going to put some pauses and some halts on some rate hikes.
That's
and possibly go the other way. And so the last, 6, 7, 8 weeks, we've started to see a little bit of a dip in the rates.
There's an excitement. There's a buzz. There's a sigh of relief.
Yeah. So here we are going into the winter of 2024, which is followed by the spring, and a little bit of a different feel.
There's an excitement.
In my opinion. Our fourth quarter was better year over year than the previous fourth quarter.
That's awesome.
January, typically the first 2 weeks of January are pretty quiet for us, and then it picks back up like nothing ever happened. But, this week was steady. This is being the first week. This will probably get released next week. It just seems like there's a lot of excitement.
I feel like it's one of those things, everyone goes into December thinking everything's going to be so slow. We're going to get to enjoy the holidays. I'm going to get to take time off and relax. Nobody's buying a house the week of Christmas. Yeah. And inevitably, like a week or two before Christmas, we get more contracts and we're cramming more things in to hit year-end goals. And December was very busy for mortgage. And I feel like that momentum has carried into this beginning of the year. More buyers are reaching out and they're excited about the news. They keep seeing things online. Rates are coming down. They don't know what that means yet.
Nobody knows what that means. Yeah.
But they know they're coming down. So they're popping their head out again.
Yeah. So where do you think we are headed into the spring? There's obviously a lot of different, crystal balls out there and whatnot.
None of which I have.
That's right. Mine was ordered from Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow. So
$1.99 prime delivery.
So, but where do you think we are headed in comparison? I mean, nothing is going to compare to that COVID market, right? Because that was just insane.
Yeah.
But we still have an inventory issue. Even if we creep up to 2.5, 3 months worth of supply, it's still an inventory issue. Yeah. And that can disappear pretty quick, right? Yeah. If enough buyers.
I actually saw, I'm not going to call it a meme. It was like a little video, a reel or something online. And it was talking about what they think the mortgage market will do. And it was a golf ball hole. Yeah. And when the rates were 7.5, there was only one ball that went out and sunk. And rates are 6.5. All of a sudden, there were like 10 balls, and only one sunk. And rates go to 5.5, and there were like 50 balls,
yes,
and only one sunk. I very much see that happening this year. All the buyers are coming back again. I don't think it'll be nearly as crazy as it was a year or so ago, where people are writing crazy offers. I mean, we were seeing 100,000 over asking price and things like that, and houses were appraising for the most part. So I don't think we're going back to that market by any means, but I do think that the buyer appetite will return this year. Yeah. There were a lot of people that kind of retreated near the end of last year, and they're coming back.
There was. And it was weird too, because like I talked to a couple agents and they were like at the peak, they had some buyers reach out like, ready. And they're like, now? Yeah. Like we've been doing this for a while now. But I mean, I think there's also that part of, we hit the spring and now there's competition. And if rates drop, are we back to maybe not the crazy offers, but multiple offers?
Yeah.
Right. So, hey, I mean, I can pay 7.5% now and get a home with little competition and get the inspection and all the things I want.
Yeah.
Or I can go wait till they're 6.5 and pay $20,000 over and waive everything. And I'm still kind of in the same boat. And
what you're saying is exactly what loan officers have been preaching and shouting from the rooftops for, even though rates were creeping up. We're like, if you can afford it, it's still a great investment, right? Because you don't have to make concessions as a buyer in your purchase. The sellers are making concessions now. They were offering seller credits and things like that. And we've been sitting here saying, like, don't pass up on the equity. Houses are appreciating year over year. Like, it's not liquid cash in your pocket, but that's an asset to you that's appreciating. And if you wait until rates are low again, then you're missing out on that. You can always refi.
And and how long do you have to be in a house before you refi?
Technically, most loans that are written now have no prepayment penalty, so you can pay it off at any time. Loan officers typically like you to keep your loan in play for about 6 months.
6 months.
Otherwise, commissions get recaptured. The loans, there's a whole bunch of back end stuff that's happening there, and nobody wants to work for free. So we like to have our clients keep the loan for 6 months before we do the refinance.
And that's not that bad. I mean, when you see how fast the rates can drop. So, you're 7.5%, 8%, lock it in. Yeah. 6 months, we get in the spring, summer, it drops, maybe even a year, till it gets, if we go, as low as they think we may go, and refinance, and you're still in a good spot.
Most lenders out there have some sort of refinance special that they're offering because we've all been anticipating some sort of refinance market, whether it was this year or next year. We all knew it was going to come. Yeah. So most lenders are offering reduced closing costs or things like that when you refi, which when you add that in, it makes sense. Right. When you add in, like I said, the equity of your house appreciating for a year, it makes so much sense when you just look at the number. It's like, why do you wait? But I get it. Some people, it's an actual affordability issue. And in that scenario, makes perfect sense. Yeah. Like, okay, you need to wait for a lower rate. Yeah,
and then some people, they wait just because they were just told to wait. Yeah. Because, the interweb said wait, or Facebook said interweb. Wait. But you also have, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure in your industry over the last year, you've probably had a little bit of a thinning. Agents have thinned a little bit, I think. I know there's been some home inspectors that's thinned out a little bit. I won't say every, but a lot of agents that I talk to that joined post 08 have said this is like the hardest year that they've had. Yeah. So that's roughly 10-ish years of being in the market, right? For those people saying that. And every time I heard that, I was like, man, guess Courtney's going to get fired soon. Laid off. I think laid off is the most appropriate term.
Because you want to offer the job back.
That's right. That's right. But for us, and there's a lots of factors and reasons we can go into. We like I said, fourth quarter, we did pretty good, right? We didn't have that 20-some% loss. Like agents were talking about the market's 20-some% down. Yeah. We didn't have that. So I think we're in a good position moving forward. But with that being said, there's also that thinning. Like we just had our meeting this morning. It's like you look around at other companies that's either done, they shut down, or they've lost some people or whatever. That spring market hits, we're going to be in a good position to capture more business.
Yeah, there's so many pieces there to kind of unpackage, right? When you talk about COVID, was something that COVID did bring, a positive thing, right? Silver lining.
That's right.
We learned how to do so much more with less during this time, right? So now mortgage companies and the real estate market in general has learned how to kind of adapt. They don't need as much brick and mortar. They don't need as many personnel. We've all learned how to operate at such a high capacity that now when volume is down, you don't need as many bodies. People have figured out efficiencies and adapted new systems and technology to do more with less. So yeah, there's definitely a thinning there, and then you add in the increased market challenges of rates and inventory and things like that. You do have people exiting the industry.
Yeah.
There's and it's not out for this year yet because loan officers have to do a renewal once a year, right? So we all just finished our renewals. So the renewal percentages of the number of people that have renewed for 2024 isn't posted yet.
Right.
But if you compare 2019 to where we were at Q3 of 2023, we were almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're actually returning to a norm. But the height in there was almost double.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like double the amount of loan officers entered this field. So what we're seeing is half of them have gotten out, whether they've retired, have left the industry altogether, things like that. Half of the loan officers that are out there are gone. So I think it kind of makes sense when you say Q4, you didn't see a decline. Yeah. It's because you're picking up the business that everyone else has left, right? So it all kind of makes sense when you look at the numbers.
It does. And it's that whole those who stay, right? And if you go all in. I was talking to an agent a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that his team leader predicts, a really high amount of agents to leave the industry this year. I said, but the problem is with real estate, I don't know if it's like this with you guys, but when it gets slow, you'll see a home inspector not quit, but now they're doing landscaping or handyman work or crawl space work. And when realtors get slow, they don't quit. They start be a teacher, or go back to what they were doing. And then when the market picks back up, then they pivot back in. So they don't really go away. Yeah, some will because they're like, no, this roller coaster is not for me, right? But they don't. But now because there's so many different things you can do to kill that time. Yeah, you see a lot of people just kind of step away just to step back.
Well, and the barrier for doing the work or the requirements to maintain your license on the real estate side are a lot less.
Yes.
Right. So they pay their fee, they hang their license somewhere. There's no cost for that company to have that realtor's license hanging. So they do it. It's a little bit different on the loan officer side, which is probably why so many of us have already.
Yeah.
Us, not me. I'm still in it. So many loan officers have exited the industry. Not me. I'm in. But it's probably because there's a cost for companies. Loan officers are W-2 employees. Right. So we're employees of a company. They have to pay benefits and things like that. So companies don't let loan officers who aren't producing hang on. Yeah. They say, here's the door. Like, go do a side hustle.
It's expensive. Yeah, when you're W-2, it's expensive. Yeah. And that was the learning curve for me was, what do you mean I got to pay you more? What? So if I pay you $1,000, I got to pay the government another $300? Well, that's dumb. Just because I hired you. You know, what if I fire you? How about we do that?
Then you're paying unemployment.
I know, right? So, so it's definitely interesting in that aspect that there's these parts of the industry that, like I said, they don't truly step away.
Right.
They just take a break. So then you get back into that, oh, money's good again. And, you come flooded back. But the benefit of not doing that is just stay in the course. And now you're building those relationships and you're there when they weren't.
Yeah.
So I can jump back in, but those people that were using you, they've moved on.
100%. Yeah. I think the people that are still in it right now that have made it through this downturn, they're your true professionals, right? They're the ones who are with you day in, day out. And if there is a return of people who've left the industry, they're probably trying to capture like low hanging fruit or things like that, just make a buck. But, and there certainly has been enough business to go around recently. It was okay.
Yeah.
Now everyone's like, okay, it's time for you to go.
Yeah. We, for us, we did a meeting a couple weeks back in October, and the lady from the state, from our board, said that there was like 1,000 and some change, like 1,057, 1,060, like licensed home inspectors in the state. Only half of them can do new construction because that's a whole other thing, which is shocking because that's just money, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's where so much of the
yeah.
business is happening.
Yeah, you spend $300 to get the little rider, and now you can do new construction. But
don't give away your secrets.
I know, right? Piss builders off to no end. But anyways, so the interesting part about it is, you said like a lot of people have left, like retiring, and home inspections in that funny place where there was a lot of people like original, right? Because it's still a pretty young industry, right?
Really? I would have thought home inspections were an older industry.
So it came about way back in the day. Like you can trace it back to like, I think like the 1920s, you know, some random guy, right? But it really started picking up, I want to say the 40s, 50s, 60s area where FHA loans, and you needed to have an electrician to look at the electrical, a roofer to look at the roof, HVAC to look at the HVAC to satisfy FHA requirements. And then I think somebody in Philadelphia was like, hey, how about us do all that for you?
Right.
You know, just one person. You don't have to call these people. And it just kind of started transforming from there. The oldest association was like from the 70s, which is ASHI. I think they started in the 70s.
Interesting.
And then it just, from there just grew, right? So we got, I think Scooter Burgess for Burgess Inspections locally. He's been 30 years. And there's a couple guys kind of in that same ballpark, 20 to 30 years. And then, you know, a couple trickled in from here or there, but it was the guys that were like, you know, I think Scooter was an electrician. And it was like, hey, you know, let's do this. You know, so you have guys that, you know, were builders, contractors, HVAC guys, and they just kind of transitioned into home inspection as they got older. And then we kind of had a gap, right? And then it was all these new people. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't have a lot of companies like in that 10 to 20 year range.
Okay.
So what that does is there's some compression, but we have a whole lot of people that's in that 25, 30 year range. They're just tired.
Right.
So and
Amen.
And a lot of them have decided to hang it up at this last go around because they're like, I'm done, right? I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen all I needed to see, and I'm just done with the up and down. I'm ready to retire. And they're just at that point. I was in a Zoom meeting for an association. I looked around, and there was quite a few guys all saying the same thing. In the next 2 years, they were done. And a couple of them saying, I'm done now because this is just, I'm tired of chasing it. You know?
Right.
So there's a lot of, for home inspections, there's a lot of opportunity in the next couple years if you just hang on.
Right.
Because of how many people are exiting because of retiring. And then those that are exiting because, again, just like loan officers doubled, you know, home inspectors shot up too. And then it got really hard. And then it's like, okay, well, now what?
Right.
You know, and you'll have those they just don't want to deal with that.
Well,
the uncertainty.
I think what's a true testament to the people that are still here is learning to adapt and not just adapt with the marketplace, but adapt with technology and things like that. I think what you do that is so cool is all your online social media things. I don't see other home inspectors promoting their business online and almost like going to the public. I understand your ideal audience is probably realtors because that's where the majority of the business comes from.
Unfortunately.
But gosh,
said with love,
right? But some of the stuff that you talk about online is so interesting to the consumer too.
Yes.
The things that you see when you go through houses, some of them scary that's how houses are being built.
Yeah, and you know it's funny because it's the mindset of when we do marketing classes and stuff like that. It's telling people like, hey, if you're going to do social media, don't do what everybody else is doing, right? Because you look at what everybody else is doing and you look at their engagement, they don't have any engagement. You know, I mean, how many people posted, and this is the benefit of being friends with 3,000 realtors, is was it date to rate, maybe the house?
Yes.
How many times you see that, right?
A million times.
A million times.
It's good advice, though.
It is good advice, but it just doesn't get the traffic, right? Or like, you know, not saying it shouldn't be integrated, but like weekly market updates. That's cool, but if that's all you're doing, it's Charlie Brown, right? Yeah. So you find stuff that's engages people, and so ours is easy. all the train wrecks that we see. But it's funny because every now and then you'll get an agent, and not many, and it's always the older agents that's been doing this for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I don't like that you post that stuff. And I'm like, I didn't do it. But my rebuttal is that we went through a 2-year period where people were being encouraged to waive home inspections.
Right.
This is me showing you why that's a bad idea. Yes, there's a comedic turn that I put on it, or spin that I put on it, but it's to let you know, like, hey, waive them if you want to. This could be waiting for you, right? Yeah. So this is me countering your advice. Not all good agents never advertised or advocated waiving, but there were some. But this is me going against the advice of you should waive your home inspection to get the house because this is what's happening.
Right.
So we can justify what we do, even when people don't like it. But for the most part,
I mean, you're not putting the address or say
no. And sometimes there'll be like weeks go by before I even post it of that house. You know, it just depends. But sometimes I can't wait. Like the world needs to see this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that market presence and even like we've gone through periods here where that's all we've done was just online marketing, and I'd see people and like, man, I see you everywhere. Like, really? Yeah, because like we haven't been in an office in like 3 months. You know, we haven't been out in public in like 3 months other than doing inspections. But it's just that every time because this is most of our lives, you know, the phones and stuff is that every time they click on there, they see something. Yeah. So yeah.
I think that's going to be like when you talk about predictions for this year and the turn and what we're going to expect. I think it's going to be this change in how we interact with the consumers, whoever that may be, right?
Yeah.
And adapting technology more. I think that's going to be a huge thing that kind of comes to light this year is the people who have made it through. I think there is like a burnout feeling that they've had, or almost, I don't want to say like a negativity because that sounds really bad, but I don't know another word. We're all feeling stressed that it's been low transactionally. So I think everyone right now, especially at the beginning of the year, is excited.
Yeah.
They're looking for new ways. They're energized. It's New Year's and resolutions and goal setting and things like that. I think we're going to see some cool things come out from everyone. I mean, the number of people that are involved in a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
There's so many people.
There is.
And I'm just excited for everyone. I think the people that have made it through, like they're your true professionals. They're the ones you want to work with, and they're going to come up with cool stuff.
They are. And you see it all the time. There's a couple like different mastermind things going on, a couple different seminars popping up, and a lot of, like you said, goal planning, business planning. Because that's the one thing that I see a lot, and we talk a lot about on here because we talk a lot about marketing and stuff is there's a lot of especially agents and home inspectors that they're not very good at business. They haven't recognized that they're a business. Probably the better way of doing it. It's just, so those people have really struggled. Right? Because it's like, well, I don't know what to do now. Where'd all my money go?
Right. We're all asking that.
Yes. But they're not aware that they're a business. And I see a lot more of a concerted effort now to bring a lot more visibility to that problem. And by trying to help agents realize that, hey, you're a business.
Yeah.
You kind of need to act like it.
Yeah.
You can't just go out there and get that commission check and
she gone. Do a little work.
Yeah, she gone. We gotta figure out where all your money's going. You gotta have a budget. You gotta have a marketing strategy. You gotta have a business plan. You gotta, what's going to happen when it gets slow. Because I talked to one agent, and he was buying his second house, VA loan. That whole series of how you can do that. And just a couple weeks ago, and he says, I said, I've increased 25% this year. Or doubled, one or the other.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's because you do it the right way.
Yeah.
You're just out there just doing you. So there's, because he gets it. It's a business. And that's how he approaches it.
I think it's really cool about Richmond. Everyone is super collaborative. There is very much this mastermind hive mentality. And the people that are still doing this, or there are so many like top producers that pour into the communities online. There are so many Facebook pages
Yeah.
where people are just sharing ideas or like don't do's and things like that. That I think that really kind of sets us apart. I'm originally from California, and there wasn't anything like that there.
Yeah.
At least not that I was a part of.
Yeah. That explains. Answer some questions there.
What are you talking about?
We can put that on the poll, Courtney.
How many people believe that I'm actually from California?
No.
Or would have guessed?
Does being from California answer some questions?
Not really. Oh, maybe like the hipness.
The hipness.
I'm hip? I'm so excited right now.
Next poll question is ReMi hip. We're going to put that on the poll as well.
Right.
I'll put those together.
All right.
Okay.
That'd be good.
I don't want to see the results
California
if it's
make
bad.
you
No.
hip.
You can reach out to me and say, ReMi, you're so hip.
That's
Here's
right.
the poll. Like, but otherwise, I'll just forget we had this
That's right.
conversation. Don't let it go to my head.
Yeah. How long were you in California?
I was actually born in Wisconsin, but moved to California. I was less than 1. So
Okay.
I say I'm from California.
Yeah.
And I moved out here 7 years ago.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
lived
Yeah.
my entire life there for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, been here 7 years, came here. I was relocated from the company I was working with. They moved me out here, and my husband is also in mortgage.
Nice.
So it was like a 2-for-1 package for the company. They brought both of us, which was really great. And I've loved it. I've been here. I wasn't a long-term plan to stay. It was kind of like for a project, and ended up really loving it. And had my kids here. It's a great place to raise my family. I love being part of this community. But there is very much, I will say, there is Richmond. I love you, but there is very much like you're from Richmond or you're not kind of there's that hard line, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to fake it.
Well, now the whole world knows.
I know. I just can't lie, you guys.
Well, that's fun. California. We've been seeing a lot of people, especially during COVID, from California and Northern Virginia.
Everyone needs to leave California.
Yeah.
It's kind of like blown up.
Yeah, and I did an inspection, and it was one of the guys was from California, somebody else from the family was from Northern Virginia. They moved, and I made a joke about how Northern Virginia is pretty much the East Coast California. The California guy did not think it was funny. So yeah, I'll leave that alone. So what else you think? What are we looking at as far as we're talking about the Fed, if they make cuts, even if they don't make cuts? There's probably some, I don't know, not turbulence. What's the other word for turbulence? The opposite of that? Stability.
Smooth?
Wow. Big word. Stability.
I could not spell that word.
No, you cannot. In the rates and all the things. So regardless of what they do, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, what are we looking at in terms of those people that are setting on 2.5%, 3%?
I mean, they stay.
Yeah.
They stay, right? We're not going to see that 2.5 again.
We're not.
That was such an artificial government influenced rate environment. So that's not coming back. And those people, they have a really great opportunity to build a real estate portfolio.
They do.
A lot of people bought houses just because you could get the one, but it wasn't your dream house, or it's been a couple of years now.
Well,
maybe
that's
they're having
where
kids
a
or
lot of
moving
people
up.
who are setting at 2.5%, 3%, they're just not happy with where they are.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for something, right? Knowing it's never going to be 2.5%, 3% again.
Right.
But what do you think that magic number is?
Gosh, if I truly am being very honest with myself, I think the majority of 2024 is going to be spent probably at about 6.25.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where we're going to sit a lot of the time. I think it's just because this Fed, this group, they move slow. They're very conservative in how their fiscal policies are. They kept raising rates and raising rates and raising rates in hopes to combat inflation. The rest of the market, or the consumer, was already feeling the impacts of that long before the Fed acknowledged it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think this rate decreasing environment that we're all anticipating right now, I think it's going to be slower than we want it to be.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to spend most of the year around 6.25. And I think if anything, we're probably going to land high fives in 2025. Mm-hmm. So it's so funny in all these like mastermind groups online, they're loan officer ones, the hashtag that we're all seeing is survive to 25.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you just make it one more year, you're good.
Yeah.
But I think anyone that's in it now, like you're going to.
Yeah. I think there's going to be enough because there's still enough, and there's all these different studies and whatnot, and take that for what you will, because we're supposed to be at 5.5 right now, according to some people, so we see where that's at. But
those people are wrong.
There's facts. But you see a lot of people, all these different charts and graphs, and that 52% of baby boomers are going to buy a house this year, and I mean, who knows, right?
Right.
But there's still that factor that they could, right? There's still a lot of people out there that's first time home buyers. They still need to buy a house. There's baby boomers that's going to be downsizing, and these 55 and over communities and things like that, they're going to be looking to go to. And whatnot. So I think there's still at the core, like you said, that there's still life.
For sure.
In every market, there's still life. No matter how bad it gets, people still have to move. They still have to relocate. They still upsize, downsize, start at home to, again, 2.5%, 3%, especially if you got a really cool VA loan and you can, keep that 3% and now you go buy a next one, so you still keep it. You just rent it out.
Yeah, I think that's the key there is you have such a low interest rate for borrowing on that house. If you're able to cash flow, your cash flow is exponentially more than someone who has a house at 4, 5, 6 and they're renting it out, right? So this is an income opportunity for those people. And because their next mortgage is going to be a little bit more, presumably it's most likely a move up buyer.
Sure.
Right? So you're probably taking on a bigger house, bigger payment. So it's nice to have that extra passive income.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they have aspirations of a real estate portfolio of some size. That's something I think that is kind of inherent in the American dream. Yeah. People want to own properties. And some people, it might just be 1 or 2. Some people have dreams of having 20 properties, whatever it might be. I do think they're not selling those houses, which is the problem.
Yeah, because it doesn't help the inventory problem, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I don't have a solution for the inventory problem.
Nobody does.
Unless it's some very, very pain points, and I just don't see that kind of pain coming.
Unfortunately, I feel like everything the government does is well-intended, I suppose. No,
it's not. We can be honest here. No,
okay.
It's not.
Well, I do think it is well-intended in trying to make homeownership more affordable. I think they have these ideas. They just don't understand the mechanics of it because that's not their job. So I think they want to make homeownership more affordable, but they're looking at it from the wrong side. They're trying to help buyers get in. What we need is to help the inventory side of it. I wish there were subsidies or incentives or things for the builders to get more real estate built versus helping the buyer. Like, let them pay 5%, let them pay 6%. We don't need more down payment assistance. We need more properties. And that would solve a lot of it.
We could put on a poll. Do you think the government has well intentions? But I already know the results are going to be on that one.
Okay.
Why are you making so many polls?
Just sit over there and
audience
stay on your
interaction.
phone. Yeah. Yes.
I will retract my statement that it was well intended, but I do think that some of the things they do. I think that there's no way I'm going to win this battle.
No.
There are organizations like Virginia Housing.
Yes.
Is a great organization here that they put together fantastic products to help buyers get into houses.
And just for the record, it's not a red thing or a blue thing they all suck. So it's both
I'm with you
sides.
there.
Yes. So, good point in talking about what do you think if I can get this out. So there's these issues, right? Inventory issues, right? There's affordability issues. The solution could be, because again, we're not going to build houses fast enough.
Right.
You have people that's going to be holding on to their houses for portfolio purposes.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see a flood of inventory into the market. So then we've got to start getting creative with some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
So that means, do the rules change for lending? Do the rules change? And not loosen up like 2008 problems, but, we get 30-year mortgages. Do we see 40-year mortgages to lower the monthly payments? Stuff like that you can change because the industry and the markets changed to the point where...
40-year mortgages are out there now.
Yeah.
Just not the way people think about it when they first see the words 40-year mortgage, right? Like 40-year mortgages are being offered on the secondary market in terms of modification. Like if another thing COVID really taught us is how to help with forbearance. Like if people are struggling, what can we do to help them stay in the house? And 40-year mortgages is a solution there.
Right.
Right. So
Courtney's getting mad at the train.
I know. I don't know. Do I keep talking through the train or do...
That's the train coming from the market. It's just symbolic.
I'm getting so irritated. Swear to God, one more honk and I'm going to go beat it up.
Right. You do that, sweetie.
Yeah.
I think there are some things that can happen on the lending side, but also we've done a really good job with qualifying buyers for the most part.
Right.
To your point, it's not like 2008.
Right.
So the people that purchase these homes should be able to afford these homes, allowing for certain extenuating circumstances or things that have happened in life, loss of job, loss of spouse,
right.
things like that, or taking on too much debt. I think that is probably the biggest thing that will cause some people to sell their house.
Right.
I think Americans are really good at using their revolving debt and putting money on their credit cards. And I think through these last couple of years when things were so cheap, everyone was racking up debt.
Yeah, they were.
And the solution there is either refinance with your house for a lot of them to pay that off, which brings them into a higher interest rate now, or back to current market. Or sell the house.
Right.
Like those are kind of your options. I think that's one of the only other ways that we're going to see some other inventory from the existing homeowners.
Right.
Because otherwise they're not encouraged to sell,
no.
you said.
No, they're not. They're not. So it's like when all these lawsuits, right? Mm-hmm. And they had the conversation of what does that look like, if anything, right? And, to the point, does it change how the buyer's agent gets paid? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of semantics, right? The buyer's paying on the loan for the commission, right? Because it's coming out what the buyer's borrowing. Yeah. Right. I mean,
it's coming out of the seller's equity.
Seller's equity. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the buyer's paying that price
the buyer's,
for the house.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do we get to the point where the loan breaks off and goes straight to the buyer's agent, or whatnot? So it's just, what does that look like?
I sure
in the
hope
future?
not, because we already have the biggest hurdle right now is affordability. If we add in the next biggest hurdle, there being a cash problem too, that's really gonna slow the market. Buyers don't have the funds. Not the average first-time home buyer.
No. Well, I'm talking about it's still wrapped up in the loan. It's just how does it get divvied out, right?
I don't think lenders are gonna let you finance that.
Right. But so it just comes down to the market and the industry's changing. And just like anything else, changes in how we do things are going to take.
Yeah, I think
10, 15 years.
Topic is really interesting just because there's such a mass population of realtors and there's such an uprising right now about all these lawsuits. And we're talking about implementing how people get paid at the government level. Right. Like there are very few industries where the government says, this is how you can get paid. Mine being one of them. So having them step in and say like, hey, you can't get paid like this anymore without understanding the consequences of any of it or the implications. This is going to take a long time to kind of shuffle through all the mayhem. And
so that's what I was saying. I mean, does rules change? And again, not to loosen them up to create a time bomb, but just the industry's changing.
I just don't think it's the lender's problem to solve.
It's not. It's not.
I don't think
it's not the lender's
I don't think
problem to
lending
solve.
is gonna. We're gonna say like, you guys have fun sorting that one out.
Yes.
You know, we're
Here's
gonna be
the
over here
money.
doing the
You
loan.
do what you want to do with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
it goes,
you guys let us know what you figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just, it's definitely interesting times on all of this.
Yeah.
And like I said, they make decisions. Oh, there's fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got to figure out how to fix that.
Right. And I'm not saying, I mean, realtors have a huge potential to make income on transactions, right? And I can understand I can rationalize the logic of these lawsuits where the realtor shouldn't get paid the way they are getting paid, and that I've read it all. I understand it, but I'm like, why? Why do you guys care?
Yes.
Just leave us alone.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a sense that nothing's really going to change with that, other than the occasional buyer or seller pushing back.
Mm-hmm.
Now the buyer's got to figure out how they're going to do the commission, or if the agent's going to do it for free,
Right?
Kind of thing. But I don't think much is going to change. But I've also had this conversation with people like, hey, what if it does?
Right.
And I use our model, for example. Like, I put a lot of emphasis and effort into online, because what if buyer's agents go to an a la carte kind of service or go away? Do I think they will? No. But where does our business come from? So that comes through being the third most reviewed company in the area and having SEO that's ranking towards the top of Google in all the markets, because that's plan B, just in case.
I think that's the way that's the entrepreneurial mindset in you,
but there's so many people out there like, oh, ain't nothing going to change. Hope so.
Right.
Like we hope so. Right?
Yeah.
My wife's an agent. A good agent is worth what they get paid.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to argue that point. The bad agents, of course, we're in this situation, right?
Created equally.
Yeah, but a good agent is worth what they get paid, and I think they should get paid what they feel like they're worth.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's 3%, 4%, 6%, whatever, I don't care. But at the end of the day, what if? And there's so many that's just like, hey, we're good. Yeah, it's nothing. Like, okay.
Complacency is like,
in so many different jobs. It's once you get plan A, what's plan B?
Right.
And once you get plan B, what's plan C? Because what if?
Yeah.
You don't ever want to use it, but what if? So,
well, and I think there's nothing wrong with diversifying how your business comes to you and being prepared. And I think anyone would tell you don't want all business coming from one channel.
Yeah.
Right. And
100%.
Just one agent or one loan offset, you need to have multiple referral sources.
Absolutely. So how many houses do you think will be sold this year? Exact numbers written in stone.
What?
This is it.
In Richmond?
Yeah. Yeah.
Two.
You better hope not.
More.
Over under.
Gosh, that's a really great question. I don't actually know Richmond's numbers on the number of houses that are sold. I'm licensed in, I don't know, some like 10 or 12 states. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily pay attention to just Richmond. Do you know how many houses were sold in Richmond last year?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm the host, so I don't need to know. I asked the questions.
You didn't give me a heads up.
So depending on the stats that you look at, your stats may be different, but I've heard the market was down year over year, anywhere from 20. I've heard 20. I've heard up to 28%. Yeah. So where do you think we rank this year, based off this 2024, based on 2023? Do you think it's a decline, or you think it's
so
it's
if you're
even,
looking at
going
purchase business specifically, or for right? So purchase business specifically, I think it increases this year. So? And I think most lenders are going to feel an increase in capture because, like we talked about, so many people have left. So the people that are left are doing all that business. I think if most lenders talk in volume numbers, we talk in units and volume. I think for us, we're probably going to have a larger increase than, I don't know, let's call it 150% of what we did last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's because we're going to be picking up some of that refi business.
Yeah.
People who bought at the high sevens, they're already starting to kind of reach out saying like, is there a refi opportunity for me here? So I think lenders are going to pick up, which in turn makes title and settlement companies, they're picking up and things like that. And again, we're all doing more with less. So I think it's not going to feel at all like we're busy.
Okay.
We've stretched ourselves much thinner in the past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's just going to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
As opposed to this like scarcity mindset we've had a little bit recently. I think this year is the year of comfort.
Nice.
Like the new norm.
All right. We're going to revisit that.
Oh gosh, I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
What do I get? Is there a prize? I like prizes.
I'll give you a high five.
I'll take it.
I'll give you a dozen hot, fresh Krispy Kreme donuts.
I'll take that too.
Yo, wait, I'll take that. What was your number?
I didn't have a number.
Shoot.
She just says we're going to be comfortable. So if
We're
any
gonna
point
be-
during the year I'm uncomfortable.
No, that's not how this works.
Oh, what?
No. But I was talking about lenders because you don't get involved on the refinances.
I do not.
Right?
Nobody cares how
So-
their house looks now.
Right?
You're in it.
I don't know. We
Yeah.
should find a way to like, hey, you're refinancing now. Did you get a home inspection a
should.
year or two ago?
You
Like, you
should.
should get one now.
Yes.
Everyone's going to be drowning.
In business.
I want donuts. Either way. Either way. They're just going to be
That could
drowning.
be a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to be drowning. That would be
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Drowning in business sounds lovely.
Drowning to stay in business or drowning because of too much of
drowning
business?
in business.
Yeah. So
Either
either way,
way-
she's trying to win.
Either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, I want donuts.
All right.
She cost me a lot of money.
I'm just going to have some donuts delivered for you. It's fine.
I would love you forever.
Right back at you.
Well, this was awesome.
Good.
Yeah. Did you have fun?
I did. It was so exciting.
Yeah. I told
This
you
is
it was gonna be fun.
cool.
Yeah. So any last words?
If you need a loan, call me.
How they call you?
For real?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to put myself on. What?
What?
I get okay. If you need a loan.
Are you one of those types of are you like a black market lender?
No, I'm not a black market lender.
Just asking.
I don't know.
You don't have an office phone?
No, I have my cell phone.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Well,
Okay,
give
it's
out
fine.
Courtney's phone.
I don't know Courtney's phone number.
I'll give it to you if you want to shout it
No,
out
it's
for the
great.
whole world.
It's fine. You guys can all have my phone number. It's fine. Any lending
All right,
questions.
look, between you and me, nobody else.
Okay.
All right, nobody else has to know about this.
All right.
So, what's your number?
804
I'm not going to tell
904.
anybody else.
Okay. 804-904-9662.
All right, that's just between us. We won't tell
Just
anybody
between
else.
us.
Yeah, we'll keep that. Well, this was fun. We'll do it again.
I love it. Thank you. This
Thank you.
was fun.
Yeah,
It was great.
awesome. We'll see what 2024 holds and if the predictions hold true.
All right.
Thanks.